Hey folks, it's Patriot Nurse. Thanks for joining me today. In this video, we are going to discuss a key trait and practice that you can embrace to help avoid misery and suffering in your life, whether in someone who is sick and taking care of sick people, or also in just practicing good general self-care. Before we get started, make sure you're subscribed and that you click the bell button if you want to receive notifications when I put videos out. The trait that I am speaking of is self-awareness, and awareness in general, but particularly emotional awareness. This is not some namby-pamby special snowflake safe space video. I want to really highlight the gift that God has given us with our braids in the way that they're structured. So when I'm talking about self-awareness, and when I'm talking about emotional awareness for sure, I'm speaking about being aware of these red flag warnings and these cues that your guts are sending you, and listening to them and paying attention to them within the calculus of how you move forward from them in the equation. Now, many people, myself included, probably grew up, especially if you grew up in a family that valued scholastic achievement and logic and science, we grew up dismissing feelings, or perhaps not putting feelings on the same level as logic. And I do understand where people are coming from, because we don't want to be reactionary as a practice in life. That tends to create a long cascade of bad effects. But in particular, being emotionally aware and being situationally aware, being cognizant of all of the input that's being filtered and generated into alarm bells within our body. If we will practice being aware of this and listening to this and acknowledging this in our life, it's going to save us a lot of heartbreak and a lot of frustration. I can tell you that as a nurse, there were several instances in my career where it wasn't cognitively up here what I saw, thought, perceived on paper that ultimately sent off in my mind alarm signals. Eventually it got to there, but it always starts in here. You ever felt that? Like when you are in a situation or you're interacting with somebody who may be a toxic person, or you as a nurse or a healthcare provider, you're caring for a patient and maybe all of their vital signs may look peachy keen on paper, but there's just something about them. There's just something about them that you're like, I don't think so. Something ain't right. I call it the sick eyes. You see it with babies when they get sick, with people before they get septic, like right when they're at that sweet spot where the bacterial count in their blood just goes nuts. The sick eyes tell you a lot about people. And in my career, there have been several times where paying attention to the interaction between the environmental stimulus and my own body's physiological responses. Again, we're not even talking cognitive response here. We're not talking, my patient meets criteria X, Y, and Z. The rubric that we have for assessing whether or not they're healthy says X, Y, and Z are a problem. Long before the conscious cognitive mind up here has processed that series of information, my body had already reacted. I was already feeling my heart rate elevate. I was already feeling my skin not really flush, but just be almost tingly aware, that alert moment. And I experienced this as a nurse, but also I want to highlight a few things in particular. We're coming up in the United States and the world on a season that's probably going to be rife with government overreaches, with increase in surveillance, with a lot of fear being churned up, and really a lot of these negative emotions being played on by people. And so the reason why I'm bringing self-awareness and emotional awareness into this equation right now is that when you're interacting with people, pay attention to your guts. Like, pay attention to how you feel when you're around them, especially if you're new to this person, especially if this is a person who you may not be super familiar with. It is okay to listen to those gut feelings. It's okay to listen to those emotional responses. Again, we're not being reactionary. We're not being like, I feel weird. You're a terrible person and blah, 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 blah. No, it's, I feel weird around this person. When this person talks, I feel this, and it's not a good feeling. When I'm in close proximity with this person, I don't feel right. You don't have to have this ironclad proof of why you don't like someone in order to be distant from them or to practice avoidance from them. And unfortunately, I think a lot of this gets labeled as judgmental or reactionary per se. But I think we need to kind of destigmatize the word judgmental. When someone says to me, oh, you're judgmental, I almost take that as a badge of honor now, because discernment has judgment as a prerequisite for it. So whether or not I feel comfortable around a person, or whether or not someone's giving off alarm bells in my mind, I'm going to use that as part of the overall equation into how I'm interacting with someone. And in general, I know this isn't necessarily something that I've talked an awful lot about, but I think we need to destigmatize listening to our emotions, not responding entirely upon them, but at least considering them as equal and valuable input into situations increasingly. And again, I say this because we may be heading into a season where persecution can be expected on people who are traditional conservative values, Bible-believing values. And there may be a season and a time coming up when we need to be wise about when to speak and when to be silent. And that's always a challenge for people who are good-hearted. Because people who are good-hearted don't tend to have up a lot of the armor that is necessary, unfortunately, in a world where people eat each other alive. And so, in the times and seasons coming up, if we enter into a season of persecution, if we enter into a season, not even persecution per se, but where we have to be more sensitive because we have to care for our families at home. We have to be that Dr. Mom. We have to stay at home and care for people because we either don't have the money to seek medical care, it is impractical to seek medical care, or it is unsafe to seek medical care in the standard entry points. We need to be perceptive to these things, to these feelings, these emotions, these internal inputs that are sending messages from here up to here. We need to be sensitive to those. And so that's just something that was really on my heart and I wanted to share with us today. And folks, I've talked about this not only in my in-person classes, but also with my online course, Foundations of Medical Prep, which is available for $129. It's 4 hours long and you get a downloadable workbook. You can find this at ThePatriotNurseAcademy.com and I have links down below. But guys, so much of your ability, even my healthcare providers out there, and you know it to be true, so much of our ability is not necessarily knowing everything, it's knowing which questions to ask and filtering through that sensory input that we get. More than just my brain says, person's blood pressure is this, person's heart rate is this, it's something don't feel right. Oftentimes, it is the non-quantifiable spidey senses or gut instincts that we have that lead us towards asking more pointed, higher quality questions. But oftentimes, in fact, in my life, most of the times, it has come from, most of the times in my professional career, when life and death choices had to be made, it started in here long before it got into here. So I want to encourage us with that. And I want to validate you guys too, in the sense that I know I have a lot of people out there who are at various points in their life where maybe you're in a relationship you don't need to be in. Or maybe you're trying to work up to being a better Dr. Mom. You're a mother of small children and there's just something in your mind that's like, I don't need to do this particular intervention for my child. Or people are telling me I need to do this for my kid, but I don't really feel that that's a good move. I want to validate you in that if you've got a feeling, you should at least listen to it enough to ask further questions and not dismiss it. If God has given us instincts, they deserve to be recognized, listened to, and explored. And that is not a special snowflake PSA. That's legit down to earth. Patriot Nurse is shooting out some love to you guys right now. So I hope it was helpful for y'all. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe to me here on YouTube. You can also support me on Patreon, Subscribestar, Cryptocurrency, and PayPal. I also started using my Instagram page, guys. I know, like 2020 has been such a year. What's the world coming to? So I started using that. Make sure if you're interested that you follow me there. I'm trying to do as much as I can, guys. It is definitely going to be a very interesting next few months. So I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. May the Lord bless and keep you all. For now, it's Patriot Nurse signing off, and I'll see y'all later. Bye.